deserve the place. Just yes, I'm not sure. So because in the end of my life, taj češki pristup
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is our very great pleasure to welcome you all here tonight to the OECD Dubrovnik talks titled Labor Migration in Southeast Europe, How to Make the Most of It. I would like you to welcome with me now the host of this event, the Minister of Foreign and European Affairs of Croatia, Mr. Gordan Radman, to come here on stage, who will deliver his opening remarks.
Thank you so much. And, the time is so flying fast. Dear Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora of Kosovo, Edušer Donika, Liebe Donika, dear Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bosnia and Herzegovina, dragi Elmedine, dear Director for OECD Global Relations and Cooperation, Herr Schaal, lieber Andreas, dear colleagues, participants, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to welcome you here today in our Dubrovnik. Say beautiful Dubrovnik, but it's up to you. To estimate the cradle of centuries-old Croatian diplomacy and the city globally renowned for its skilled merchants who have pursued maritime trade for centuries to bring prosperity and well-being to their citizens. In this regard, Dubrovnik has been the most appropriate Croatian city to host such an event with the OECD, the organization aiming to shape policies that foster prosperity, equality, opportunity, and well-being for all. It's good that we follow our tradition. Much to our pleasure, it is important to know that today's OECD talks on labor migration in Southeast Europe have been the result of the successful visit by the OECD Secretary General, Mr. Mathias Cormann, to Croatia in April this year, and upon the proposal of the Croatian Prime Minister, Mr. Andreas Plenković. The co-organization of this event by the Republic of Croatia and the OECD is also an important message of the OECD's recognition of all the efforts Croatia has been investing in its OECD accession process and an incentive to continue working even harder to meet all the necessary criteria for the OECD membership. As of 1st January this year, Croatia has been fully integrated into the European structures, what remains OECD membership. Even ever since the start of the OECD accession negotiations in January last year, Croatia has been very committed to the process itself. The best indicator of our hard work and its recognition being the fact that on the technical level we have so far started negotiations in all 25 committees organized 9 fact-finding missions, and that in September we will have the honor to host again the OECD Secretary General Mr. Korman in Croatia on the accession occasion of the official publication of the first economic review. However, in addition to our work on the accession process, we highly appreciate the OECD's activities around the world, particularly the ones in our neighborhood, one such being the regional program, the OECD and Southeast Europe. Sharing the same set of values as the OECD, we are pleased to host today's event focusing on the Southeast Europe, since it indicates our commitment and willingness to actively participate and make contribution to OECD's highly commendable initiatives, especially on pressing issues such as the labor migration and the challenges we have all been facing in this regard, particularly in Southeast Europe. Despite the huge efforts invested in securing and enabling a better living standard and opportunities for our citizens, the fact remains that the number of economic immigrants from the region has doubled since the 1990s. Although there is no magic formula to stop the brain drain, we need to intensify work on the implementation of structural reforms to face the challenges that obstruct sustainable economic growth. In addition, we need to find ways to strengthen engagement with diaspora by creating programs facilitating diaspora's return investment opportunities and knowledge transfer. Being a country that is bilaterally very engaged with the countries in the region and facing their similar challenges, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, we are on the same, both when it comes to our diaspora. Germany, Switzerland, America, Australia, and so on. Croatia is, as a current OECD candidate and a future OECD member, I hope so, state is willing to further engage with the OECD to better promote the OECD policies and practices in the region. And no matter when, it's important just to fulfill all the criteria, and then. Russia's aggression on Ukraine has caused tectonic shifts on a global scale, and especially here in Europe, which is facing its largest challenge since the Second World War. He's also the Ukraine ambassador, but also the other ambassador. So, Excellency, welcome to this event today evening, ambassadors here. Unfortunately, the war has also brought new challenges to the already economically shaken and politically delicate region of Southeast Europe or Western Balkan. Having in mind events in the world and our close neighborhood, we must focus considerable attention on migration issues and their consequences. So today is an opportunity to discuss reform measures that will unleash the region's potential to achieve higher economic growth and enable conditions that alleviate the main factors contributing to large-scale immigration. Croatian labor policies. As for labor migration issues in Croatia, it is important to note that the freedom of movement of workers is one of the fundamental principles of the European Union. Once we are entered the European Union, we are not more foreigners in the European Union. It's the past. when I was a child and I went to Germany. And I was Ausländer. But today I am not more Ausländer. I am at home. It has advantage and disadvantage, however. But it is important that so we share common values. We are one family. In accordance with the principle, Croatian citizens are freely find employment in the EU countries without special approvals or work permits. That's good news that also Kosovo, as of 1st January next year, will get the visa liberalization status. In doing so, people gain new experiences as well as new knowledge and spend most what they earn in their home country. Croatia carried out labor market reforms aimed at reducing disparities and improving competitiveness. These reforms focused on increasing labor market flexibility, promoting entrepreneurship and improving the overall business environment. Croatia has been developing and implementing active labor market policies to address the unemployment and create more job opportunities. This includes programs to support entrepreneurship, support for self-employment, vocational training initiatives, and targeted measures for specific vulnerable groups, such as the long-term unemployed and young people. Furthermore, in order to encourage the return of Croatian citizens from abroad, they are not only Croatian citizens, they are second or third generation, or even fourth generation, like in Canada. I was several months ago, I visited Canada, and I was impressed with our reaction and the youngsters who are just in the third or fourth generation, they speak Croatian language. They are well integrated in the Canadian society, however, but they are Canadians, but with Croatian origin. We created the measure I Choose Croatia as an upgrade of the existing support for self-employment. The measure has two goals: to enable people who have acquired knowledge and skills abroad, and additional incentive to return to Croatia, and the development of economically less developed areas, like, for example, Lika region. The ambassadors know where is Lika. Through the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, we created 3 new measures to support green and digital transition, whose objective is to boost employment, traineeship, and self-employment, and thus increase the competitiveness and employability of the labor force. Through the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, we have also introduced new voucher system for education to ensure better lifelong learning participation for employed and unemployed persons, with aim to acquire skills necessary for green and digital transition. To conclude, we believe that our neighboring countries are also facing the similar challenges in terms of labor migration, and we hope these OECD talks will result in more concrete proposals for dealing with our aforementioned challenges. On our side, we stand ready to share experiences and best practices with all of you. Once again, let me to express gratitude to the OECD for their dear Andreas and Anastasia, and for the organization of this SAIU event in Dubrovnik for the second time. All the participants for taking time to discuss such an important matter, and wish you all a pleasant stay in Dubrovnik, and I hope to see you also today evening during the dinner. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Radman, for your very warm welcoming remarks. Now I'd like to give the floor to the OECD Director, for Global Relations Corporations and the OECD Sherpa to the G20, G7 and APEC, to Andreas Schaal, to set the scene for today's talks on labor migration.
Thanks so much, dear Minister Grlić, Radman, dear Gordan, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister, State Secretary, friends, colleagues, dear Ivana, dear Anita, who is also working with her team on our topic today. It's a great honor and pleasure to be back to Dubrovnik. I should say maybe 3 things before. First, you said you feel home when you come to Germany, and I say I feel home when I come to Croatia, and I feel home when I come to Dubrovnik. So thanks so much for the fantastic hospitality you give to all of us every year. Second, this event, the so-called OECD Dubrovnik Talks, is indeed now a tradition, because if you do a thing once, it's an event. If you do a thing twice, it's a tradition. And if you do it 3 times, it's legacy and history. So we're moving towards this. And I remember having the meeting with Prime Minister Plenković, my Secretary General, Matthias Cormann, and yourself, Zdenko and others, where the Prime Minister said, I want this to be a tradition. And then I came home and said to my team, the Prime Minister wants this to be a tradition. And they said, oh God, what are we doing? And I said, let's think about something where we have an expertise and where we can make a difference for the topic you have today, which is managing the global reshuffle. But this also means that we need to think about the people we are dealing with in this global reshuffle. And there we believe migration plays a very important role. So that's why we have been suggesting, the other reason why we suggested to do labor migration and how to make most of it is because we just have a new report. And we always do an event when we have a new report. And this is labor migration in the Western Balkans, mapping patterns, addressing challenges, reaping benefits. And this is something where we believe there is value in doing more thinking together. How can we work together? And it's indeed, the minister mentioned that Croatia is an accession country to the OECD, but we have a long, long tradition of working together on these kind of issues. Croatia was a very active member of our Southeast Europe regional program. This is one of the products of this program. We believe that in well-functioning migration systems, we need to take a look at the economic and social well-being of countries and their people. And this depends on various strategies. One is managing migration flows. Second is sizing the benefits of economic migration. Third is ensuring that migration integration succeeds. And to that end, the OECD is a data powerhouse. We gather data on how migrants are integrated, how they develop in their professional life, how they develop in their personal life. We do policy analysis. We create space for exchanging good practices. And one of the things we want today is precisely to exchange good practices, because we believe, I was just asked by the television, what's the major problem in the region? And I said, no, this is not the right question. The major problem is also, what is the right opportunity for the region? And I believe, and this is something which is in there, that migration is a bridge which you need to drive in 2 ways. So you need to address the push factors who make people think that they live better abroad. And you need to also address the pull factors, which means how can you bring better qualified people back to the country. So this is basically the message in this report. Let me start with the more problematic picture. This report has some data about migration in the last 20 years. And it basically says 1 out of 5 of the region's citizens live abroad. Ivana in New York. No, this is really an issue that 1 out of our 5 region citizens live abroad. And 1 out in 3 citizens currently is considering leaving the region. And this is even the more, let's say, the challenging factor. And here I quote a number of things, and I really quote what we got from the research when we asked people why would they consider leaving, and I'm not saying that this is true or not. It's just what we got. The most cited things is a perceived injustice of the institutional system, a perceived corruption in countries of origin. The second most quoted thing is political instability in some countries. And the third, and this is probably one of the, let's say, most important push factors, is perceived better employment education opportunities abroad. This loss of labor and human capital has an impact in the region's labor markets and economies. On the one hand, reducing the supply of workers can potentially decrease unemployment. On the other hand, immigration of an important part of the working age population can lead to skills shortages and hinder productivity. And this is another message in this report. This data shows that the Western Balkan economies have experienced important skills losses, in particular in business and tech skills. On average, 44% of Western Balkan employers say that they are unable to fill vacancies due to the applicants' lack of skills. So this is something we need to address when thinking about bringing people back, because sometimes people have acquired these kind of skills you need here in their life in the diaspora, and they may make a meaningful contribution to the economy. 37% said that immigration is a reason for unfilled vacancies. For instance, North Macedonia, there has been growth in the demand for medium skills over the past decade by manufacturing companies brought in by FDI attraction policy, especially by multinational companies competing for this skills profile globally. This additional demand has not yet fully met due to the skill shortages in the country, which has been exacerbated by migration. So we kind of have an industrial dynamic who is kind of making the migration the dynamic even worse. And now I come to the positive side of the story, or of the opportunity side of the story. What can we do? So we believe that the region's large and growing diaspora can also be an important vehicle for the region's development by transferring skills and knowledge and increasing innovation. Immigrants' experience gained abroad, increased language, entrepreneurial, technical skills can benefit the Western Balkans if the right policies are in place here to bring people back, to leverage them, and if their integration, when they come back into the labor market, is successfully managed. Diaspora, as many of you know, can also be an important financial resource, sending back and investing money. On average, Western Balkans receive remittances equivalent of 10% of their GDP to support households and tackle social inequalities, alleviate poverty. Third element, immigrants who invest in their home countries or act as de facto ambassadors, encouraging FDI, can be important contributors to socio-economic development. So this is another thing where we believe that it's really important to address with this, and Gordan, you mentioned it, to address with a strategy the people in the diaspora, to see whether we can have a strategy to bring them back and bring their skills into productive workforce. We also believe in, and this is the other part of the work we are doing, that, I mean, you cannot just say, okay, wonderful, we need to bring the people back and they will all come. You need to have competitive economies, you need to have regionally integrated economies, and that's why we are doing, since a couple of years, a competitiveness outlook, which has more than, Anita, 70, 80 indicators, where we show how the countries in the region are performing, and there is improvement in many countries when it comes to competitiveness, SMEs. So we also need to generate the conditions for the labor market to be that it's possible to absorb the returning skill set. We propose in this report, again, recommend to read it or to put it under your pillar. We have an artificial intelligence technology which brings it directly into your brain. We would advise to tackle 5 key reform actions in this. First, address the push factors that lead to emigration from the region. Weak or informal employment conditions, address, try everything to improve the education system, because also many migrants, as Gordan said, it's already the 5th generation. And if you want to bring them back, you need to have a narrative that their kids are better off after coming back. Second, respond to the concerns of immigrants and foreign investors by fighting corruption, strengthening the rule of law, improving the overall business environment. And I'm very glad that Croatia is one of those countries which has taken the lead in our other integrity project, which we are doing with Siemens, and really trying to lead by example here. Third, develop institutional cooperation and partnerships with destination countries to optimize outcomes for Western Balkan immigrants in their destination countries. Fourth, see immigrants and the diaspora as a resource and build trust and engagement with them, and encouraging investment and knowledge transfer in the country of origin. Finally, design return policies that attract migrants back and facilitate their reintegration in key sectors of the economy. So again, my major message of this setting the scene is migration can be a bridge. It's not about building walls, it's about building bridges. And you need to think about driving this bridge 2 ways. People will always leave. You can try to attract them to stay. But you can also kind of manage and try to attract them to come back. And now I have another 3 paragraphs of conclusion, but this was just a wonderful end of a short scene-setting speech. Thank you very much indeed. Honor, pleasure, and a privilege to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very insightful and deep introduction, Andreas. So now we can continue with the panel discussion. And for this, I would like to ask the chair of this very important discussion, the State Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and European Affairs from Croatia, Mr. Zdenko Lucić, to take the floor. And of course, also all the 6 very distinguished panelists we have the pleasure to host here today. Please take your seat. Over to you, Zdenko.
Thank you all for coming. I know it's tough to get the panel or side event before the official dinner, so crowded with people, and I'm really glad that we're missing chair, but I would like to offer my chair and the first row to ambassadors who didn't have a seat to please have a seat in front. There are 4 more chairs available for everybody. The reason why we have a room full of people is the fact that we have excellent partner in this on organizing this event, the OECD, great speakers, Minister Grlić Radman and Andreas, dear friend from Germany, and the OECD. And of course, we have excellent panelists with me today. We have 2 ministers. Mrs. Donika Gervalla Schwartz, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs from Kosovo. Mr. Elmedin Konaković, Minister of Foreign Affairs from Bosnia and Herzegovina. We have Mariin Ratnik, Undersecretary for Economic and Development Affairs of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Estonia. We have our dear friend Ivana Živković, Assistant Secretary General from United Nations Development Program. With us today, we have Hrvoje Supić, Vice President for Central and Eastern Europe of Salesforce, and a good representative of Croatian diaspora. And speaking about the diaspora, we have Professor Soana Jupllari from University of Tirana, a member of Advisory Board of Albania Diaspora Business Chamber. Thank you for coming. It's pleasure to chair this excellent panel. First question goes to ministers. with fertility rates falling, with aging societies, immigration plus immigration become one of the top challenges governments are facing today. There are numerous reasons for people moving outside of their country. We heard Andreas on the OECD view of those reasons being low-paid jobs or no jobs at all, with dissatisfaction of business environment, perceived corruption. What governments can do to reverse this trend, how to retain the talents, how to get the talents back to the country. I would like to offer the lady first.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for the invitation, dear Gordan. I congratulate you for, again, showing that Dubrovnik is the best place to be and to get together and to speak about the chances and the challenges that we in the region, but Europe as well, is facing. So it's always really good to be here and to use the opportunity to meet a lot of colleagues, but at the same time to be in side events where we can discuss, beside not the business as usual topics that we need to discuss in our countries. My thanks goes to Mr. Schaal and OECD as well. Thank you for, I have tried to get the report, but I would appreciate a lot if I could use the way home to study that, because it's so important for us to have the figures and to know if this is the same what we are analyzing at home with our surveys and other mechanisms. Representing the Republic of Kosovo, I'm in a lucky position not facing the same problems that you mentioned, because Kosovo is not facing lower fertility. We are not facing the population getting older and older, because we have the youngest people in Europe. We have every second citizen of Kosovo is younger than 30, and that brings a lot of chances for a country, because being the youngest people in Europe, at the same time, we have the most optimistic people in Europe. And you know, optimistic people do not tend to leave so easy the countries. But we have faced more than one wave of immigration. And that means that our society knows well what is needed to do so that young families, young people, do not take in consideration again to leave the country and to look for better conditions for themselves, and more than that, for their families and their children. But we have having these young people, having a huge change that happened 2 years ago in the country, where the citizens with their vote have decided strong to vote for a government that on first place is engaging in fighting corruption and organized crime and having more justice and more jobs for the people, brings us in the good position that EBRD, for example, has the strongest forecasting growth for 2023 and 24, not only in the region, but more than in the most member states of the European Union. 2022, we had a growth that was more than the average in the European Union. And 2021, it was a pandemic year, and we had before the war in Ukraine, we had an economic growth of more than 10%, double digit. So when you have these numbers on one side, you have young people on the other side, then you are in the obligation to do all that you can as government to deliver on reforms, to deliver on reforms in educational system. Yes, it's very important to have a better educational systems, to have a good infrastructure, to have a good health system, because when you have countries that have faced war not long time ago, it's just 25 years, less than 25 years, then people do not want to have their children and grandchildren facing the same what they have gone through. Kosovo has a lot of challenges. Everybody knows here that we are not free of problems and challenges, but in this regard, I think that Kosovo can be a good example, and we not only a good example, but ready to engage with all neighbors and ready to engage with others in the region so that we compare our experiences and we take the best ones. We have, for example, being somebody that has spent 30 years in Germany, from the 90s until the year 2021, as I came back home to be part of the parliament and the government. We have learned a lot from the Croatian diaspora in the early 90s. So we have learned from the Croatian diaspora that was very much better organized than our diaspora at that time, how you can at the same time have progress for yourself and your family, but to start helping the country and to open doors for your country and to open ears and eyes for the legitimate needs that your country has. And so Croatian dissidents were among the first that helped Kosovo to get the contacts to the German politicians, for example, and so to start. And the same now, we are all out of war, and we really hope that war will never come back to our region. I'm not so sure in this last days and months, because we have a war in Europe and we do not know how will this change the realities in our region as well. But let us hope for the best, and let us start a broader talk about the diaspora, about migration, about what went good and what didn't went so good in the neighborhood, so that we can all together compare and can all together find the best experiences that are possible. In fact, I think that there are three priorities to unleash economical potential and to attract foreign investment and to give our young people a real perspective at home, not only outside. And those three priorities, I think, the first one is fight corruption and organized crime. Don't only talk, but fight corruption and organized crime. The second one is do not talk, but implement the rule of law and be serious in doing that, so that people can have trust in the measures that the government is taking. And the third one is give people trust in justice and government. These three elements will change the perception of people and the need to talk about leaving the country. And one last thing that I want to throw in the discussion, we need to differentiate well between those who are ready or are willing to leave the country for a short time and those who want to leave the country forever. Because there in the Balkans, I believe it's a huge amount of people who are ready to go for some time, but to come back again, and then to discuss what is needed to do so that people feel welcomed when they come home, to see if they can come back forever or not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Minister Gervalla Schwartz. It's great to have somebody, who actually walks the walk and who returned to his country after a couple of decades. So, and to assume this position of great responsibility. Minister Konaković, same question goes to you, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure also to be here today in this beautiful city, Dubrovnik. Thank you, my dear friend Grlić Radman, for organizing this event. People from OECD, all of you, thank you very much. I think this is the right topic, We don't have the same, we have the similar problems, actually, and not the same solutions also, Bosnia and Herzegovina, I think, is on the first place in the world losing people, I think 2021 we lost around 170,000 people. One big city just disappeared during only 1 year. That's around 4% of the most productive part of our society. Young people, they're running away from our country, and the first reason is political instability and political depression. Because I'm coming from the most beautiful country in the world with the worst politicians in the world, because they cannot provide and offer any solutions, and they're actually hiding behind using emotion, you know, here in Balkan, it's easy, you know, to use emotion from people and to I don't know, like to hide all you cannot deliver and all hopes you cannot provide, you know. I will tell you a story, actually, somewhere in Europe, 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago maybe, it was a big problem with the car stealers, you know. They were stealing a lot of cars in the region, and at the end they discovered like the cars are ending on the same place in the one specific country from the region. And a few months after, from that country, like they created a campaign, you know. Come to visit our beautiful country, your cars are already here. You know that? So we are expecting now the same message from European community. You know, you will become a members of European community. We are waiting for you because your people are already here. You know, they're working there already. They're all over European community. My deputy, my friend, actually, Josip Brkić, he sent me these numbers, you know. This is from Germany, I think. Yes, yes. Like Bosnia and Herzegovina is on the second place in only one sector, healthcare, only one job description, medical care of elderly people. We are 70,900 people working now in Germany at this moment, you know. And we are a country with around, I don't know, 3.5 million probably. And I think our diaspora today is bigger than our domestic society. Actually, there's more Bosnians and Herzegovinians living outside of our country. So this is really, really big issue for us. And it is created because from politicians only, you know. So I'm the biggest promoter of political regional stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina, I can say openly and clearly. And I'm traveling all around my region and promoting idea of political stability in the first place. Then we can discuss some economical solutions, you know. For example, life costs in Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's much cheaper to spend time in Bosnia. With a salary around 1,500 euros, you can live much better than, I don't know, with 3,000 euros somewhere in Europe. You can ski on 2 Olympic mountains, beautiful mountains, only 13 minutes from our downtown. You go by car and you go back in beautiful city of Sarajevo. Many advantages, actually. Fly connections, only 1 hour, you can be whenever you want. My country actually is connecting East and West also. We're the bridge between East and West. Many opportunities, but every day you can see only politicians fighting. And we are changing our history every day. You know, this is a fact actually which is changing the mostly in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We're discussing our history back in centuries, not only in 90s. So first of all, we have to create political stability. We need to create dialogue. We need to provide and offer future for our people. And you know, 3 constituent people and others, they're living in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and they're running away, all of them, Serbs, Croats, Bosniaks, others, the same percentage, you know. So we have big problem. Big problem, so this is, I'm really happy to discuss today. We don't have enough time to offer solutions to discuss all these problems and offer solutions, but it's enough to start, and we will do, of course, our job to solve these political issues. Diaspora is big advantage today for Bosnia and Herzegovina, and it's not well connected with our country. I'm, as a Minister of Foreign Affairs, wherever I go, actually, I have bilateral meetings, I have official visits, and then after that, I'm talking to Bosnians and Herzegovinians all over Europe and all over the world, you know. Now we started to connect them through some NGOs because they're really good, they're well organized. They don't believe, actually, they're young people, they're born in Europe somewhere. They don't believe in the institutional contact at this moment, but they want to create some contacts with their country. So right now we are using that also. Few excellent Bosnians and Herzegovinians, they organize themselves already, and we have meetings with them all over Europe and trying to connect them with Bosnia and Herzegovina. So for start, that's it. Thank you.
I would like to thank Minister Konaković for interesting and really honest statement. Next, we're moving to our 2 ladies next to Minister Konaković, Ms. Mariin Ratnik and Mrs. Ivana Živković. Although labor market outcomes are slightly improved for migrant workers over the last years or over a couple of generations. Still, we have migrant workers from Western Balkans working jobs that are way below their skills, their knowledge. According to the OECD data, more than 50% of migrant workers from this area are doing jobs that are less demanding or below their skill level. How can integration and reintegration policies help to change this employment outcomes for the people from this region? Ms. Mariin.
Yes, thank you, and thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me to that panel. Obviously, being from Estonia is something that we can share our experience. That might be something that we can share the experiences, because I think that's what OECD is also about. It's and thank you for OECD, first of all, organizing this event. Is about sharing the best practices and doing the joint analysis in order to be better. So Estonia, being a member from OECD since 2010, we have been there has been enrichment for us in that sense and supporting our moving ahead. Just 2 days ago, I came back from Paris and we joined the OECD Development Assistance Committee. So OECD is an absolutely great asset. And I want to congratulate Croatia on its path, on this good path to be member in OECD, and we very much are looking forward and waiting for you there. So our experiences as being a country also, country that knows migration, emigration, voluntary and forced over the centuries. We have currently our diaspora, we assess it's about 200,000 people abroad, by the population 1.3 million in Estonia. And to be honest, that we have just recently very actively started to work with our diaspora abroad to engage them more to Estonia. Not only that, attracting them back, but bringing them together in the countries where they're currently active and keeping up the ties to Estonia, cultural, educational, labor migration. We don't necessarily think in these terms, I have to say, but we try to make the service, as we call it, the country, Estonia, so much more better that it is more attractive to come back. So, or like inviting young people to go learn, like enriching their skills and knowledge, and then attract them back. So it's like very systematic work. We do it through the Foreign Ministry. So we create communities in the countries. We offer the opportunities, for example, the entrepreneurs, the Estonian background entrepreneurs in foreign countries to build clubs, to have opportunities to consult each other. We have created lots of digital mechanisms to that they can come together virtually and work. We provide to the young people and children who are living abroad currently educational opportunities to learn the language, the culture, to be involved, for example, in the summer camps in Estonia, that they have a connection and they keep the connection to Estonia. So most of our diaspora is living in EU, 89%, and the other 7%, the other EU countries, with only 4% in rest of Europe. I have to also say half of them living in Finland, so our neighboring country. And our when we talk about migration in general, then our since 2016, actually, the migration has been net positive. So there are certain mechanisms that have functioned, and I think strongest mechanisms are those that actually here the two ministers have mentioned, making your country attractive place to live, to be, meaning you create a society which is stable, economically wealthy, the salaries are growing, the corruption is low according to OECD standards again, education levels are very high, again, OECD standards. So this is something that that has helped, I think, in our work integrating and reintegrating the either diaspora, but also in wide range the talents from other countries to come to Estonia. It's more about what you do inside your country than how you work with diaspora abroad. That is at least our experience. And of course, as I started off with learning from best practices, we are also glad that we do also some projects here in the region. For example, together with Germany and Slovakia, I think we do a project in Montenegro currently about active labor market measures implementation. So also kind of doing this cooperation and seek and reach out that where we can learn from each other and contribute to each other's better policies.
Okay, thank you on your intervention. What I believe is one of the things that actually is a great advantage of Estonian people and the mindset in Estonia is that the fact that you want to be first in anything you do. What you did in electronic e-governance, yeah. Electronic business is something that's remarkable for a country of the size of Estonia. And now to my colleague Ivana Živković, you are director for Europe and Commonwealth of Independent States, a huge area, a huge responsibility within the UNDP. What would be your view on the topic of integration and reintegration of the...
Thank you very much, Zdenko, and thank you very much, Minister and the Croatian Ministry, for inviting me. It's great to be back, and yeah, I feel at home, although I now have a different career path. But as we're all well aware, outward migration is driven by factors such as limited work opportunities, low-paid jobs, large informal sector, and also the poor quality of health and education services, which is also a result of underinvestment in social infrastructure. But some recent research shows that to students and highly educated persons that are seeking opportunities outside of their countries, they're not as nearly dissatisfied with economic environment as they are with social environment. And this is what has been mentioned by almost all the speakers. Security, the rule of law, and also public services, but also necessity to work on anti-corruption and fight the organized crime. So in addition to a high percentage of the Western Balkans population working abroad, and we can agree that it is more than 20%, some even say that it is close to 30%, we noticed through our UNDP's work in this sub-region, we have noticed many challenges that are faced by authorities, and this is in implementation of effective migration policies, including data gaps, and also limited coordination between different government agencies and inadequate tailored services for migrants and returnees. What UNDP can do to mitigate this problem on a larger scale, we are the custodian of the SDG 16, which deals with peace, justice, and solid institutions. So on governance, we support at a country level. For example, I will give an example of Montenegro, where we focus on strengthening citizens' participation, but also youth participation, and the inclusion of NGOs servicing citizens in social services. For example, the care for the elderly that was also being mentioned earlier, which frees then young people to work and be active. Additional interventions of UNDP include improvement of legislation, fight against corruption and organized crimes, and also transparent public finance management, improvement of public services, particularly through digitalization. To address these issues in Albania, North Macedonia, and Serbia, UNDP, through the support of DG NEAR, is implementing a project on strengthening national and local systems to support the effective socioeconomic integration of returnees in the Western Balkans. And this project aims to tackle the root causes and negative drivers of migration, contributing to broader social inclusion agenda in the Western Balkans region, and also promoting more sustainable and integrated society for returnees. For example, in North Macedonia, on the national level, entry point for returnees has been ensured in the National Employment Plan with concrete target and budget to support their economic empowerment. Models piloted under this project are valuable approaches focused on economic empowerment and social inclusion of Roma returnees, especially given that these populations need to be included in the green and digital agenda. Mainstreaming of Roma, it needs to be included in the green and digital agenda. So in Kosovo, in addition, we have worked with 17,000 young people on Kosovo active labor market programs that contributed to skills in different profiles, including digital skills in line with the labor market demands. Those are just a few examples. Of course, we're very happy to work with governments, as we usually do, and also with the local and regional authorities, but also with the NGOs, with youth organizations, with business organizations, and others to improve these conditions in all of the Western Balkans countries. And maybe to end on a little bit more of a positive note, when asked in Montenegro, there is association of students who are living abroad, and when they were asked how do they feel about their country, most of them said that they would never return, but that they still feel that they need to contribute somehow. So perhaps digitalization could be a chance for this, because in these newly developed circumstances and the possibility of working remotely, sometimes this diaspora does not really need to leave the country, but can perhaps also benefit from better working conditions and stay in their country of origin. So hopefully this is something that will be assisting those situations in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Ivana. And I think this. Thank you for your insight, and I think this is a great example with the remote work that's actually, bringing income to the country from abroad. It's export work, and you still have people and talent staying in the country. And so in many areas, it's a win-win for the economy and the person earning their income abroad. Now, two members that are one is working as Croat outside of Croatia, and a lady from Chamber for the Diaspora. We all see that, or we mainly consider immigrants to be the loss for the country. You as a country invest in education and healthcare, in everything. There are positive aspects of immigration. We heard from Andreas that over 10% of the GDP of the region is coming from remittances. However, it's even better for the country if people with knowledge, skills, and resources come back to the country and invest in the country, create new value. But of course, country has to build the trust in the business environment, in the society, in the institutions. How we can, or how countries can build trust, and how countries can get people back. As Andreas said, what are the right opportunities? Mr. Supić.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me here. This event is far out of my everyday experience, which is built around digital transformation, new business models, and doing business in Central Eastern Europe. So I'm here as presenting my personal experience as being a migrant, although I would consider myself as a globetrotter, more than a migrant, but still, as I spent all my days in a highly international environment, I have certain insights that are coming from people that I work with, that my friends, that practically all of them migrants. And even I see the same trend with my kids and their friends that are very, very international, and I'm very glad to see the new generation or younger generation, they really feel European, very international, and have very different mindset. So picking up a little bit of that mindset, the discussion so far, I mean, it was, I think, really great. It was great insight from the report. I fully would support every statement. But still, it was a little bit of negative sentiment about migration. And in a totally crazy business environment that we are experiencing these days, where things are changing literally every 6 months, I see different patterns in business, in migration, in demand for labor, talent, different things. There are tremendous opportunities happening everywhere. Small countries can't compete against big countries. But you mentioned high quality of life in this part of the world, which I absolutely agree. Maybe it's not popular to say, but this part of the world gives the same life experience for top 10 than probably top 0.5% in, let's say, UK or Ireland, where I live. So, and then this cascades to, let's say, less than maybe top 10%, whatever. So I would really call here to look at diaspora as great opportunity. You won't get them back. There are reasons why people left, and people will stay there as long as these reasons are there. Economy, number one. I can see this in Poland, for example. Massive immigration, it's turning back. I'm spending almost every month a couple of days in Warsaw. Warsaw is becoming top European hub. I've met tons of Croatians, Bosnians, Montenegrins there in all sorts of positions. So for the countries to leverage that, to leverage that network, to get closer to the centers where decisions are made, business decisions, not political decisions, how to influence companies to build, to make these investments. This is, I would say, really huge. I mean, it's gold. I live in Dublin, in Ireland, in a country that absolutely mastered convincing probably 1/3 of the planet to be Irish and to bring investment to that country. And this is it. And this is what I really think this is a great opportunity. You know, let's connect to these people. Let's not ask them to come back, but to influence where they are, to bring attention to their home countries. Recently, just a couple of weeks ago, I've read an article that was saying that in, let's say, this global geopolitical stuff, offshoring is not something that is such a big topic anymore. Nearshoring is there, but probably we will hear more about friendly shoring. Investments are going to friendly places, where capital feels safe and friendly. And building this network of friends of each of these countries, I think that is something that is extremely valuable that every country can do. So this would be my message. Let's think positive. Let's go for an opportunity. Don't miss an opportunity to take an opportunity. And so thank you, and one more time for inviting me here, and looking forward to networking after the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Hrvoje. Speaking about Croatian diaspora, this week is ACAP meeting in Zagreb. ACAP stands for Association of Croatian American Professionals. They have usually their annual meetings of Croatian business diaspora in the States in different cities. This year they decided to come to Zagreb, and it's a great opportunity for Croatian businessmen and businesses in Croatia and in the United States to connect and to form new partnerships and new opportunities. Of course, to get people back to the country, you have, besides having better or improved business environment, you need to build trust. A couple of years ago, we managed to win the IBM Client Innovation Program Center project in Zagreb, competing with 10 different locations throughout Europe. And this project, which is now close to 1,000 people, in first 2 years, out of 200 people that they initially employed, 40 were Croats that returned back to Croatia from outside of Croatia. So the center opened in 2017. In 2019, they won the award as the best IBM client innovation center globally. So in very short time, they did excellent work. And moving to lady or final speaker at the panel, same question to you as to Hrvoje.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind presentation, and thank you to the organizers for inviting me to this distinguished panel. I consider this platform today, let's say it's a unique platform, as an important mechanism, not just to discuss with each other or just to share our experiences, but at the same time to learn from each other, which are the best ways, the best mechanism to make more effective the contribution of diaspora in our home countries. Of course, that diaspora communities with their diverse talents, diverse experiences, backgrounds, have always been a bridge in connecting different cultures, in driving economy's growth, in fostering innovation, and so on. But of course, that the contribution is not just as a resource of remittances. As you said before, the remittances for Western Balkan countries represent almost 10% of the GDP. We are talking about formal remittances because we know that many people send their money to the families as well as in informal ways. But of course that the contribution should go far beyond the monetary transfer. And we are talking here about a skill transfer, about knowledge transfer, about entrepreneurship, and so on. Well, Diaspora Business Chamber is talking from the perspective of Diaspora Business Chamber in Albania. Of course, it's an institution that supports economic diplomacy and has diaspora, Albanian diaspora, as its main target. And we strongly believe that three are the main mechanisms that we are actually implementing to support and to better channel the contribution of diaspora, especially talking from the perspective of economic and investment point of view. First of all, we are trying to build strong networks between diaspora communities, diaspora entrepreneurs communities, and Albania. And we are trying to do this by different events, by different meetings, working tables between diaspora investors and businesses or investors in Albania. Secondly, by facilitating investments of diaspora in Albania. In this case, the chambers can serve as an investment desk, to support investors from diaspora. For example, with different information, for example, with legal or financial assistance, or with new investments opportunities. But at the same time, with networking. For example, in our chamber, we have many cases in which we have members of investors in, let's say, for example, in Italy, Albanian investors in Italy, that want to find a partner, business partner in Greece, Albanian business partner in Greece. And in this case, the chamber plays the role of connecting between these two investors in order they to collaborate with each other or to create partnership with each other. And of course, in this case, a chamber of commerce, a business chamber, can serve as a one-stop shop, let's say, for different services that an investor for diaspora needs to have in home country. At the same time, it's important to implement mechanisms that support skills and knowledge transfer. For example, in our chamber, we are trying to implement and to achieve this result through some mentoring program between diaspora expertise, diaspora mentors that support and that are mentoring mostly students in Albania about career guidance, about how to begin a startup, a new startup, a small startup business, and so on. And of course, it's important for all actors, especially for chambers of businesses, to be in an active way, actively part of discussions with public institution, with government institution, with other organizations and stakeholders in order to help diaspora, and especially entrepreneurship diaspora, to allocate its capital, its contribution to home countries, and to build better reforms, friendly reforms in doing business, and so on.
Thank you, Soana. So before I hand the microphone to the audience, so we're closing to the end of the panel, I would just revert what Andreas just said about the tradition and the panel, and I would like to greet my last year's panelists. I see Mr. Kamel from the Union for Mediterranean here, and I see Teresa Czerwinska from European Investment Bank. Does anybody have any question? Don't be shy. Okay. Thank you all for coming. I would like to thank my panelists for being really interesting and excellent. I will not repeat what everybody was saying, but at the end, in order to overcome the challenges we all have, there's no magic recipe, but two or three ingredients are definitely needed. One being to set a goal. Second one, to work hard on achieving those goals, and it takes time. You know, Croatia, we have our independence for a little over 30 years. It's been challenging. We had a war. We had a really rough start. But with setting the goals, doing the hard work, we managed to be part of first NATO, became part of European Union. Now we're a member of Eurozone and Schengen. We have credit rating among three top global rating agencies at the investment level, and we are aspiring member of the OECD. Yeah, and we managed to, you know, the rough start we managed to take that into our advantage and work harder to achieve the level of development of the Western Europe. Thank you all for coming, and special thanks to my panelists, and we see you on, of course, dinner and tomorrow on the panels, but next year as well. Thank you.